practically middle-aged.
The sheriff calls us outlaws.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode 10. That's right, episode 10 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. I am Ross, and here with Adam as always, and we are a champion at the bit to talk about today's subject, aren't we, Adam?
I can't wait. I mean, it's maybe more fun to talk about something that you just thought wasn't good. You know, how much fun can you have actually just praising something? So, yeah.
We're just going to let the hate fill our bodies like the rock is electrifying. We are hate-ish.
Yeah.
So today we've talked about our top 5 WrestleManias of the 80s and the 90s, which was episode 8. We've talked about our top 5 WrestleManias of the 2000s and the 2010s, which was last episode 9. And this was all building up to the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania 37, which went down this weekend. For full disclosure, neither of us are weekly viewers of Raw and SmackDown. We might know what's going on every now and again. I've got a son who is quite into things, so I'll catch things that are on. Adam, you don't really watch week by week, do you?
No, I watch pretty much every pay-per-view with having the network and things like that. And I did, rather than when we were watching some of the old events and you're maybe skipping through some things and all that, I thought if I watch every bit of this, and they are still quite good at the summary packages in terms of showing you what's happening and things like that. So I didn't skip any of that, watched the full event just to try and make sure I had at least a vague idea of what the storyline was that was going on.
So you'll be just as informed as somebody who stuck on WrestleMania for a laugh. Okay. So what I was trying to kind of give a bit of context to is that we're probably not the targeted demographic for this current WrestleMania, but we thought we would give it a bash, try and watch it all the way through without skipping, which was a thing, and give her a review this week. So I think you're the same as me, Adam. I went into this with optimism. I tried to have an open mind and give it a chance. And I feel like on night one that continued throughout until certain points, and we'll get to night 2.
Yeah, I think I definitely tried. I think you were maybe more optimistic than I was. I just kept looking at the card and thinking, but by the time I actually came to watch it, which was, night 1, I was watching on Sunday afternoon, I think it was, just because, being a middle-aged outlaw, I'm not awake at the kind of time of night that it's actually on, but that was my viewing time, and by the time I actually put it on, I thought, come on, this might be good.
Give it a chance.
Yeah.
Before we jump in, there's obviously a lot on WrestleMania week. You and I were texting back and forward, and we'd been watching a little bit of the NXT, what was it called, Stand and Deliver?
Yes.
And they also had 2 nights to themselves. By the way, there's got to be a lot of swearing in this episode, so if anybody actually listens to this and is put off by that sort of thing, switch off now. Those greedy bastards, WWE, they took 2 nights during the week, 2 nights at the weekend. But some of the stuff in the NXT 2-night event was fairly good, actually.
Yeah, it was. I watched I watched a lot of the matches. I haven't actually sat and watched the full card through. I watched most of night 2 in the end. I watched some matches from night 1. And there was some really good stuff on there actually, and it's kind of, I used to watch all the takeover events when they came out, and I think you kind of expect now the quality in ring and some of the logical storytelling to be a little bit better from my point of view than what you get on the main shows. But I think there's always an expectation that, you know, WrestleMania dwarfs everything, and it will deliver on the day. But I was impressed by TakeOver.
Yeah, me too. Although I did find that Adam Cole Kyle O'Reilly match maybe outstayed its welcome by a good 15 to 20 minutes, but nevertheless it was pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, WrestleMania 37, sponsored by Snickers. Before we jump into this, I'd texted you earlier and we were talking about demographic, and I just wanted to very quickly, before we get into the meat and bones of this, who do you think that the current product is targeted towards? Genuine question.
I really struggle with this because I was aware when I was a young kid it was kids, you know, that was all WWE was all colour and, you know,
over the top characters.
Yeah, and I think at that time, you know, the WCW product was the more hard hitting and things like that. And then, you know, through Attitude Era it was pretty clear who it was aimed at. And then I also thought, you know, a few years ago with, you know, Cena very prominent and things like that, it was aimed at kids again. I can't answer your question because I can't watch this and actually know who this is aimed at. And I am aware, I mean, I don't have any kids, I'm not watching it, you know, with a younger person who might enjoy some of the content, so I didn't want to assume that it wasn't aimed at them, but it doesn't feel like it's aimed at them, to be honest.
My view is that it's a bit all over the place. Let's take the Fiend stuff for example. I can see that appealing to like younger teens. I can't see it appealing to very young children because it'll probably scare the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Look, mummy, there's a man on fire. Then like the Roman Reigns stuff would appeal probably to people like us, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's kind of old school type stuff. Stuff like Cesaro, Seth Rollins would appeal to people like us.
Yep,
of our age. A lot of the women's stuff, like, this is difficult because I'll probably trip over my words here, but a lot of the women's stuff doesn't really appeal to me. Some of the women's stuff does, like the main event on night 1 I thought was really good. But they're really good wrestlers, and they put on a really good match, but a lot of the backstory stuff is just like nonsense to me.
Yeah, I actually quite liked what I saw of the Bayley and Sasha Banks storyline that ran through a chunk of the year, and I almost felt like I didn't know whether they missed a trick, although you can't run a storyline all year, and I get that. Maybe it kind of felt to me like that should have maybe culminated at Mania, but as you say, actually I thought the main event from night 1 was very good, as you know, the in-ring match I thought was very good. So I can't say I find it all that interesting, but it would depend on what the story was, because you know, I got invested in Banks and Bayley, so if it's something that can grab me, then it will. It's really all about the storytelling. Absolutely, and we've spoke about that before. Most of the time when we're praising something from, regardless of the era, it's the storyline that goes with it that makes the big difference, that draws you in, that makes you interested in watching the match. We talked about Hogan Warrior being essentially a really crap wrestling match, but it was electrifying. Yeah, absolutely. Because everything that went with it. Yeah. And then you've got Strowman screaming that he's beating the shit out of somebody for everybody that's ever been called stupid, which is, it's his own form of irony. I didn't know if I just wasn't getting that and it just kind of went over my head, but it did seem an odd that whole angle around that match, and we'll get to it, that just seemed strange to me.
No, a lot of shite.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Night one. Shall we jump in?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, we got Michael Cole in a poncho to start us off, which was good.
Yep.
Samoa Joe doing his best effort to keep us jovial. How could you not with Samoa Joe smiling at you?
I actually I tried to stay awake just for the start of night one on Saturday, and then when I put the network on, it said, and we've got a rain delay, and I thought, no, I'm going to bed. That's me out.
That's it done. Oh well, I tried. So we got like the kind of welcome back to the fans from Vince, and we had what appeared to be Roman standing as a member of the McMahon family, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
And someone sang America Beautiful, and Otis appeared to be rocking back and forward in quite a strange way, which was intriguing.
Yeah.
And Vince was like horrendously caked in makeup, which looked really weird. It's weird seeing him on telly now, right? It
is, yeah. I think there's a point at which as well you need to start accepting the kind of age you are. I don't know if he's still trying to come across as somebody who's, 40-year-old or something like that. But yeah, I get why he probably genuinely wanted to address a live audience, given everything that's gone on in the last year or so.
That was appropriate, I think.
Yeah. I always do find these moments a little bit odd, because I don't know whether are they breaking kayfabe, are they not? I mean, it's some of the positioning of where people are standing and facial expressions, and I'm maybe looking for something that you shouldn't, because maybe it's not supposed to be there. I just find it a little hard to read whether he's just told them out, right, you're your genuine person, come out, we're going to address the crowd, and then as soon as you're back, you're back in character.
Imagine the Fiend was standing there for America Beautiful.
Yeah, that'd be pretty strange.
Standing looking all burnt. Maybe it was during America Beautiful that it all fell off him, all this marshmallow stuff that was on him. Anyway, we eventually got to, I think we got Titus and Hulk to kind of give us a horrendous intro.
Yeah.
Titus, we can't hear what you're saying. Hogan, you're either reading, you can't remember his script, or he's reading a prompt or something. It wasn't good.
Yeah, it was quite awkward. And then I'm not sure whether, because they weren't out an awful lot.
No.
And I don't know if you do a couple of rehearsals and they think, we're just going to do this once a night. Because normally if somebody's the host, they appear a few times through it.
It's an odd thing, this host of WrestleMania. I don't know when it started. The Rock, maybe?
The Rock's done it.
Was that 32 or something?
Hogan, I think, was technically the host of 30.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they had him come out at the start, but then you had, Austin came in the ring, and then Rock came in the ring, and all that.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
I suppose you can't miss with that name power, but I don't know why it's a thing, and it then I found what they had Bailey doing a bit strange, but again, having not followed TV, I don't know if that played into what she's doing on TV just now, maybe.
I think she has a talk show.
Okay.
That's what she was doing. She's quite a good wrestler.
Yeah.
So we got the chance to have our WWE Championship match starting us off.
Yep.
Which was not a shock when we found out that Banks and Belair was going to be the main event, but a good way to start, I think.
Yeah. I think the way they sort of positioned the matches through the two nights was fairly logical. I think you want to get off to quite a hot start. I think you ideally want to get the crowd going, especially when there's been a rain delay. And I've no doubt they planned this long before anyway, that this would be match one, but you want to get people going quickly. And to be honest, there weren't a whole host of matches I was all that excited about looking at the card on paper. This one did intrigue me a bit because I've not seen an awful lot of Lashley as champion. You know, that all happened on TV, that sort of side of things. And Drew McIntyre's obviously somebody that they built for, you know, the Rumble and then Mania after a sort of slow climb in terms of his position since he'd come back. And I kind of looked at it as they could go either way here, and it'd probably be at least a match that'll keep me engaged, which it did, to be fair. This is one of the ones I don't have too many negative comments about for the match. Not sure what your thoughts on that were.
No, I'm fairly similar. We'll get to the finish. I had an issue with the finish, but okay. Something that immediately got my back up was Michael Cole's comment. Oh, sorry, hold on. I love the way that they present Lashley. I feel like he's presented as what he should be. Just this absolute dominant, powerful champion. I think he looks excellent.
Yep.
MVP with him, it's a great presentation. I think finally they've done the right thing with him.
Yep.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And again, not seeing a lot of him on TV, they've clearly, you know, positioned him strong. You know, this isn't a sort of sneaky champion of any kind. They've positioned him as dominant and very difficult to beat, and almost in the. I don't want to give too many Lesnar comparisons because from what I've seen of Lashley, he's a bit more of a rounded worker actually than Lesnar is these days anyway. I think he can do a bit more, and I think, you know, you're basically putting him up against one of the guys who walked away from last year's Mania as the top guy. So I thought that was quite good positioning, really. Yeah,
no, agreed. So Michael Cole says, just remember in the back of your head that Drew has essentially been champion since last WrestleMania, with the exception of dropping it to Randy Orton for a month or a few weeks.
Yeah.
And he obviously dropped it to The Miz pay-per-view ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Michael Cole says that Bobby Lashley has been as dominant as any champion in memory.
I don't think I picked up on that one, but that's quite a comment.
I think he should get tested for amnesia. Anyway, I liked the way that this started. I liked Lashley really showing his power. A lot of the time he was overpowering McIntyre, and then Drew would come back. Drew's really a really well-rounded wrestler. He can do everything essentially, and he showed that. He had the suplexes, but he also had his dive over the ropes where MVP and Lashley did not catch him, and he probably rattled his head off the floor. I find Drew like really engaging to watch. He's got a good personality and he brings that with him in the ring. Yeah. Lashley kept... sorry, I lost you there for a second, sorry.
Oh, no bother. I think I totally agree with a lot of what you say, and I think there was a desire to have McIntyre take this role of guy that won't give up, and he keeps coming back, and obviously that kind of keeps him pretty strong, you know, in a sense that there was no quit in him, and that obviously plays into how they finish the match, which you can speak about when we get there. But I thought there were some pretty good looking moves in there as well. There was a sort of DDT combo by McIntyre, and it's one of those where you need McIntyre to have a level of offense, even though he was almost playing the kind of underdog and the slightly weaker guy. But for Lashley to become this dominant force, he needs to be able to, you know, overcome the offense from somebody as sort of big and imposing as McIntyre.
Yeah. And the thing that I like, just going back to him being all-rounded, he's got a really good submission game as well. And we saw that a few times as well, which I liked. And it's something that I always felt that CM Punk did well, and Daniel Bryan does it as well. He'll just throw out these random complex looking submissions that you genuinely believe could finish a match.
Yeah.
There was a time that Drew locked in a Kimura and it looked a bit like Lashley was actually really close to tapping, and they made me believe, which is quite a feat.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we get to the finish, I don't know. So what happened was Drew gets up and he signals he's going to hit the Claymore. MVP shouts at him, "Look out for that car!" Like, did he shout at him?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you think he was supposed to be behind him and pull his leg or something?
I'm not sure. It didn't seem like the most logical thing.
It's raining.
It did maybe seem like I've missed my spot. I need to do something.
So he runs and he stops, and he runs again, and Lashley ducks, and Drew kind of is like, okay, so I'll throw myself to the floor.
Yeah.
And Bobby gets him in the Heartlock, and I think from there, I think I've got this right sequence of events. Drew is in the Heartlock, goes over to the corner, and he does the old Bret Hart to Roddy Piper thing where he kicks up off the turnbuckle and tries to land on him to get the pin, but Lashley holds on to the Heartlock, and Drew goes out. Yeah, that's a nice sequence.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things. It's pretty clear to me that they're trying to protect Drew as well. You know, they're putting over Lashley, but there was no Claymore hit, so he didn't actually have to recover from a Claymore. And also the fact that McIntyre didn't quit, he passed out. That was the way they painted the story. So there was obviously a desire to keep McIntyre strong, but still, you know, putting Lashley over. It's the kind of thing I'm a little bit in two minds about whether maybe I would have preferred him to hit a Claymore and for Lashley to kick out of that. If you're crowning him the guy and it's at Mania, but the other side of it is kind of that, you know, it's their first big match between the two of them individually, so maybe that's to come.
To me, sorry to interrupt, like that, the whole thing of like, here's 5 of my finishers, I'm going to kick out of 3 of them, and all that sort of stuff. I feel like you get that so often that it was actually quite refreshing to see that.
Yeah, as I say, I didn't disagree with it, and I think there's always then the threat of, you know, next time, because clearly there is going to be a next time. Maybe they can play the storyline of McIntyre telling them, I didn't hit a Claymore, I would have without the distraction, and you would have gone out, you know. So yeah, they've kind of got that angle to lean on for the whatever the upcoming matches are.
So I was shocked by this. I genuinely like kind of thinking about it, the fact that Drew's held the title essentially the whole year. He was getting a huge pop at Rumble 2020. And that was kind of like the start of things. He didn't get the chance to get Mania 36, and he didn't really get that crowning moment. Yeah, I expected the belt. I genuinely thought that they were putting the belt on Lashley to give it back to McIntyre, so he got that pop. So this shocked me, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think Lashley wears the belt well. I think it makes sense to go with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is kind of a shame for McIntyre because his moment came without a crowd, but I'm pretty sure they'll have him on top at some point again in the future. I don't think he's done.
Sure. Aye.
And I think it was important for the character they want Lashley to be, and that they're now positioning him as, that he wasn't a kind of a champion that just drops the belt really quickly. I think if he's going to be the dominant guy, they have to allow him to be that for a little while. Yeah,
totally agree. Good job, WWE. Yep. Whoever books Raw, we'll just say a broken clock's right twice a day. Yeah. So well done. You booked that incredibly well. So from there, we go from the highest of highs to the lowest of the lows. We had the women's tag team turmoil match, which would give us the number 1 contender to Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax on night 2. Lucky us, we get two. Whoever wins this, we get to see them twice, which is a treat.
Yeah.
We started out with Lana and Naomi with some incredibly bouncing music versus Carmella and Billie Kay. Billie Kay was in a successful tag team. They split her up from her tag team partner, and she's now in a tag team with Carmella.
Yeah. I don't get that one because I remember seeing, was it Mania before, wasn't it? Was it 35 that I think the women's tag titles were a new thing, and
right.
the Iconics, was that it?
Iconics, Peyton Royce.
Yeah, they won it against Banks and Bailey. They won the titles. And now I assume they split them up because they were going to push one of them as a single, but I'm not aware of that having happened at all.
God knows. Let's fly through this. This was really bad.
Yeah, I said to you, I think in a message, that this was the match that I just couldn't concentrate on because I just didn't care. And that might sound brutal, but
fair.
Yeah, I just didn't care.
I felt that there was in this whole match, I felt that Carmella is quite a good wrestler, and she looked like better than the rest, and I felt that like Natalia's quite okay as well. So let's run through this. We had Lana and Naomi starting off against Carmella and Billie Kay. Carmella and Billie Kay won that one to face the Riot Squad, who I think were dressed as the Joker and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Which was odd. The Riot Squad won that. They then fought Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, and Mandy fell on her arse.
Yep.
And who won that one? Oh, the Riot Squad won that one. They fought Natalia and ain't nobody meaner than Tamina Snuka.
Yeah.
And they won. Tamina and Natalia won after Natalia went to put on the sharpshooter, and then was like, do you know what? It's time for your WrestleMania moment, Tamina. And tagged her in, and she hit this Snuka splash.
Yep. And
that was it.
Yeah, and I think I kind of agree with you. Natalia kind of stands out as I think a high quality worker who was involved in this situation. I wasn't sure going in whether many of these were established teams or just kind of thrown together last minute. I'm sure, like the Riot Squad, I know had been in matches together before. I did wonder, it just felt a little bit of a convoluted way to try and get a lot of people on the card, that they maybe didn't have a lot else for them to do,
which is poor.
Yeah, and it's not the performers' faults,
No, you're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get Natalia and Tamina versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax on night 2, which we will get to in due course.
Yeah.
After that, we had a really weird trailer for WWE YouTube channel involving the 24/7 Championship, Old Spice, someone called Joe Average, Drew Gulak, Akira Tozawa appears to be a ninja now, and R-Truth, obviously.
Yeah.
This was really weird. I have no idea what it was about, but clearly these are like the Gimp Squad that are chasing after the 24/7 title, which I had no idea was a thing still.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I watched and thought, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at, but it was one of those where I thought maybe this will all be explained later or something. It was weird. There
was a reference to like some what's that aftershave in Anchorman called? Sex Panther.
Yeah, I think that's it.
There's like a weird reference to something like that as well. Who knows what was going on there?
Yeah.
Next, we got a good match. Probably the one match that you and I were probably looking forward to the most. Across the 2 nights.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I've always been a Cesaro fan and felt that he needed the chance to shine. and Seth Rollins, you know, is a very, very good worker, and you just kind of rely on him putting on a good match, and adding Cesaro into that mix. I noticed that the announcers actually mentioned it was the first time Cesaro had a singles match at WrestleMania.
Aye.
Which I think says a lot for the way he's been booked.
It's crazy.
Given what he can do, you know. Yeah.
So I liked in the package before this, I like this kind of cackling over the top heel that Seth Rollins. I like this better than the kind of CM Punk rip-off thing he was doing before. I like that, like the party political video thing that they put together, and at the end he's doing the voiceover about this is nothing to do with Seth Rollins and paid for by friends and all that.
That was good.
That was quite funny. So this was just high quality wrestling that is appreciated. Don't know if you want to talk through some of the kind of highlights of it.
Like you've got at the start of the match Cesaro with the sort of fast aggressive start, going through quite a lot of not so much his signature moves but just quite a high volume of moves early on, and I thought you then went into a stage of pretty good, you know, old fashioned psychology. Rollins seems embarrassed about the idea that he was in that swing, the Cesaro swing. And he's trying to focus on the arm of Cesaro, logic telling you that he won't be able to perform the swing. If you take out one of his arms, he's not going to be able to do it. And I like old school things like that, just logical things, and even just, you know, taking the swing element out of it, the focus on a body part, you know, try and take one element of the offense away because it makes sense.
That was similar. We spoke about WrestleMania 17 on the last podcast, and we talked about this was Jericho Regal opening match, where Regal was working away in the shoulder of Jericho to take away that to take away the walls of Jericho, and this was similar. And like you say, it's logical. It makes sense. It's a story. So
there was a point where after a bit of work on the arm by Rollins, that Cesaro ends up going for the swing, and he can't really go through the motion of doing it because his arm's hurt, and then he transitions into a sharpshooter, which again, you know, logical. You've got somebody in that kind of position, right? What else can I do if I'm not going to be able to perform this swing? Okay, I'll try to go into one of my other moves. There's a really good looking, I don't know what to describe it as, a corkscrew splash by Rollins on Cesaro.
That was amazing. Was that when he did the 360?
Yeah.
How good was this? So cool.
It just looked brilliant.
It's like a frog splash. Like he did a frog splash, but he spun in mid-air. It was cracking.
It was great. I then started to get a little bit annoyed by the commentators, though not to the extent that it ruined the match for me. But this seemed to be a theme through so many of the matches, that after just a few moves, and they haven't even done any of their signature moves, the commentators start questioning whether the wrestler's going to be really frustrated that he's not been able to put him away yet. And I'm looking thinking, there's been no curb stomp. I'm just looking thinking, he's so much left in his arsenal that he can actually do, both performers. And they're just doing this thing of saying, oh, you know, he must be so frustrated he's not been able to put him away yet. And I'm thinking, what?
I didn't pick up on that at all. That's funny.
Did you not? It really annoyed me. And there's definitely, I've got it in my notes for more than one match, so it must have been a thing that just kept going into my mind.
The thing that Cole, to me, kept harping on about was the embarrassment of being in the swing. And like, this was his thing that he was sticking to and speaking about the whole time.
I do have a little worry in my mind, and I've kind of thought this with Cesaro a few times. This swing being almost a, pantomime style move, but it seems to be such a focus. But the crowd still are into it, so it's fine. I just worry the future of it is that what Cesaro is in some people's eyes?
Is that the new stink face?
Yeah, and he's got so much more about him.
Absolutely.
There's a moment, I remember him doing this at some points over the years in the past, where there's a pedigree used by Seth Rollins as well. I think he maybe started adding it to his arsenal when he was kind of aligned with Triple H.
Yep.
And he brings that out now and then. So it's a pedigree for a near fall. And then you get the swing for real. He's able to execute it. I think I never know how they quite judge it, because I didn't count the same number of revolutions as the announcers did, but obviously it was important for him to get to 23.
Yeah. The fans were just like away up at 46 or something like that. They're getting hyper excited.
So yeah, he went through that, and then went. Is it the neutralizer? Is that his finisher move?
Yeah, apparently to me that was a styles clash. I'd never seen him doing this before, but they seemed to be thinking that this was his finishing move. So yeah.
I thought it was a really good match. I thought two very smooth, very believable performers working well together. A good match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just really hope they kind of use it as a building block for Cesaro, and it's not doesn't just disappear again.
I wouldn't mind. I would thoroughly enjoy to see them going again. I think they've got a lot more, and stick them in a gimmick match as well. If you stick a ladder in there or something like that, that'd be interesting as well. Cesaro did this total crazy move where he had Rollins on his shoulders and started spinning round and round. He was putting his hands on his hips. Michael Cole told us he calls this the UFO because he's not using hands. What? That doesn't make sense. You fucking idiot.
Yeah, but that's all just come flooding back to me.
Sorry, go.
Did you see Rollins as, like, I know he's not in the picture, but he is a main event level guy, and like, just in my eyes, if he was ever in the main event, you wouldn't be surprised to see him there. So my hope is I think a decent program, say a 3-match set between these two, will elevate Cesaro to be seen at that kind of level.
Yeah. I agree. Get Rollins a win back through some sort of nefarious cheating way, and then have the rubber match and have Cesaro narrowly win it, and elevate him.
Yeah.
That's not what they'll do.
Probably not.
Nah. Top marks to Seth Rollins and Cesaro.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Our next match was the Tag Team Championship between the New Day and Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash.
It did really have that feel about it. I just without having yet got to all the contents of the match, it did just feel like they were wearing the masks of them. This is your job, AJ Styles. You're going to take a beating in the ring for ages because it's all about getting the tag, and then we get to see Omos, and that's what everyone's waiting for. It was funny, the parallels just right there, not very well disguised.
It paid off though. It worked.
Yeah.
I thought it was odd. It was an odd, it made sense, right? But the New Day are these unicorn riding, rainbow spewing, hyper faces, and yet the way that they went about this match was really heel-like.
Yeah.
It didn't really make sense. It made sense, it made logic that that's what they would do, but from a face versus heel point of view, it didn't really make very much sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a return to old school tag wrestling, and that is what the heel team would have been doing. You isolate one guy, you cut the ring in half, you're right in what you say, it's logical. If you're in that match, you're thinking, right, we don't want that massive guy coming in, so let's just try and keep AJ Styles over here, although a little bit working it like that, it's almost a little bit dismissive of AJ Styles' skill set, because you don't know what you've got in Almost, but in AJ Styles you've got a guy that's been one of the top overall performers in the company for 5 years, something like that.
Like the Shawn Michaels comparison isn't wild.
No, he's a great worker, and I think I'm not sure, how long they're going to play out the Almost story before I assume he'll turn on him one way or the other, and then there'll be matches between them, and it's probably a good guy to have in the ring with your new big monster to build him up and get him some confidence in the ring and things like that, because I get the impression from what I've seen anyway, AJ Styles can work with anyone.
Well, he had a great Mania match with Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
Michael Cole says that the New Day, this guy's been drinking a big bottle of Hyperbole before this Wrestlemania. Cole says that the New Day may be the greatest tag team of all time.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the Legion of Doom versus the New Day.
I don't know. I never took the New Day all that seriously, and I know that there is a lot of their side that's supposed to be comedy and all their catchphrases and stuff like that. But I do remember back just a few years ago thinking the Usos were a genuinely very good tag team that could have existed in other eras and stuff like that. And the New Day, no, just never would have thought that of them.
No. Like, I enjoyed Kofi Mania, and I actually quite liked him as champion. Yeah. But then look how they threw him to Brock, and then you're supposed to take him completely. Anyway. Yeah. So we had the New Day basically cutting off the ring. I did quite like Xavier Woods saying we're effectively cutting the ring in half. That's quite funny. So we're isolating AJ Styles to build up the tension before we finally see Omos in his Saturday night gear get in the ring and just fucking destroy them, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if I realised, because again, not watching the TV shows and things like that, I don't know if I appreciated how big he actually is. I mean, remember,
those three guys he's fighting are smaller guys.
Yeah.
But he is, you're right though, he's ginormous. I don't know what height he is actually, but he's bloody massive.
Yeah, I mean, when AJ Styles went on his shoulders to deliver the phenomenal forearm, I was looking thinking he's got quite a height going on there, but I don't know whether, obviously I think in the old days you would now have almost having matches against squash guys and things like that, which aren't really a thing on TV because there's too many stars to put people in squash matches, but I'm assuming they're going to feed quite a few people to him pretty soon now.
Like, how can you not now that you've seen him?
Yeah.
I suppose the only issue with putting the tag team titles on them is that they're kind of tied up in that.
Yeah.
With not many tag teams really. We were speaking about that. I can't really think of many tag teams. Yeah,
I suppose it might form. You've quite often had situations where people have had the titles, but there's they could even start creating the division between them, while they're tag champs and things like that. Yeah. So we could see something like that. I didn't realise going into this that this was AJ Styles' opportunity to join the club of wrestlers that have had the world title, the Intercontinental title, the US title, and now the tag titles.
Yeah, Grand Slam champ. That's cool.
Yeah, it's especially not having been in the company all that long. I know it's a few years now, but it's quite a career he's had.
Absolutely. So that was an entertaining match. For what it was nice to see Omos and what he can do.
Yeah, I think it got the job done. I think it did exactly what it was designed to do, that match.
Aye, totally agree. So, yeah, again, we go from a high to Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon with, who did we have? Oh, we had Jerry King Lawler coming out for God only knows why. Must be a big Shane McMahon fan or something.
Yeah.
So we had the cage match. So did you did you understand the backstory having watched the package?
I understood what they were telling me the backstory was. Still,
that's two different things, right?
yeah, I still couldn't really see it as justification for this being a WrestleMania match. I hated it on paper when I saw it as, you know, Braun Strowman v Shane McMahon in a steel cage match, just because I get having you know, a Shane McMahon in a storyline, or a Vince McMahon in a storyline or whatever, and I wouldn't hate it that much if there was some ongoing multi-months long logical storyline that Shane then ends up in the ring in a match. That's fine.
Yep.
But this, to force it in a very short period of time with no real angle, and then just for the sake of, it felt more like for the sake of getting Shane McMahon on the card rather than getting
that's
Braun
exactly
Strowman
what it
on the
was,
card.
wasn't it? Aye.
Yeah, I just don't get it, and it didn't appeal to me, and it didn't really suck me in while we were watching it either.
So we had Jax Taylor from Sons of Anarchy and Elias come out and jump Braun Strowman whilst he was just walking down to the cage.
Yep.
They go to town with a couple of chairs, I think, on Braun's leg.
Yeah.
Which causes Braun to kind of fall over, and gives him as an excuse as to why he's not overpowering this 50-year-old man that's about 10 inches shorter than him.
Yeah.
Shane does a random coast to coast, like with not. This is a problem. They just kind of throw things out. Like, this didn't make any sense. There was no build up to this. There'd been no back and forward or anything like that. He just climbed the cage and jumped across climbed the ropes, jumped across the ring to like give him the equivalent of a kick to the face, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
There was a couple of nice little spots. Braun bounced off the cage and knocked Jax Taylor and Elias off the cage, and obviously when Shane was climbing down and Braun pulled the cage apart, a unique little spot. It worked. It was quite good.
I quite liked the, you know, wave and then the catch of the hand and then the but I almost feel more annoyed that unique element was wasted in this match, because they could have done that in a third match, a rubber match between two performers who had real animosity between them for some logical reason. That
would work with Seth and Cesaro.
Yeah, I imagine that's when that had been done. That would have been great.
Yeah.
It annoyed me more that it happened here because it's just so throwaway, you know. Yeah.
So Braun wins, he power slams him and wins, and he screams that this is for anybody that's ever been called stupid. Fuck me.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing. See, when we're talking before about who's this aimed at, who's the target demographic, and how it used to be kids. So I'm taking from this that, you know, if a kid ever calls another kid stupid, gonna have to build a cage, and it's shit's gonna go down.
I'm going on record. If your child idolises a giant man who makes train noises and beats people up because they call them stupid, your child is stupid. They're fucking stupid. After that, we got the Hall of Fame 2020, which was nice. We had Scott Hall looking slightly dodgy. The NWO X-Pac looked elated. Was that?
Yeah, he did. He looked pretty good, actually. He looked healthy, I thought, X-Pac. Yeah.
With the Bella twins in this class as well, did we?
I'm trying to remember between...
There was the 2021 and the 2020, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think Bella's were 2020.
It was quite stacked. They were both quite stacked.
Yeah, they were. Cause I think the NWO were the headline for 2020, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And Kane was maybe headline for 2021.
Yeah,
I think.
I think Batista was supposed to be in this one as well, but they'd moved him. They're going to do it next year or something. I don't know if he's filming a movie or something.
Yeah, I think they didn't know for sure whether there was going to be an audience as well, and it was felt like Batista, I assume, with the sort of mainstream appeal now, they wanted to maximise that, I think. So don't know how that would have made everyone in the, actually being inducted. And there was a crowd there in the end anyway. And I think they probably did the right thing not doing it last year, to be fair. I think that was probably the right move, given they were doing it from the Performance Centre and no crowd at all.
Yeah, agreed. Right, here come the expletives. Because now we've got Miz and Morrison, we've got people dressed as the Easter Bunny bouncing down the ring. We've got Miz and Morrison coming down to some pish karaoke song that they were half lip syncing, half rapping to. Then we've got a genuine wrestler come out, Damian Priest. Was not digging the electric purple trousers, but apart from that, looked alright. And then we had Bad Bunny come out in one of Edge's old cast-off jackets from his Brood days on a fucking lorry. Have you ever seen anybody less imposing riding a lorry? When Michael J. Fox was doing handstands on the top of that school bus, he was more imposing as a werewolf.
It was quite an intro for a non-wrestler. But yeah, I have to say a few things about this whole match and this whole setup. I have no issue with celebrities being brought in to do certain things at WrestleManias. That's fine. It's ever since the first WrestleMania, there's been celebrities there.
Yep.
In all sorts of functions. Ring announcer, even referees. Whatever function. And I've seen and heard a lot said about, he actually did okay, Bad Bunny, in this match. It's not really the point. I am relieved this was a tag match because, it was originally billed as, was it just Bad Bunny v. The Miz?
Yeah.
Which I don't know what that would have looked like, but the fact that he was able to execute a few moves and things like that, that's fine. He got through it without embarrassing himself or hurting someone or anything like that. But I just don't get why he's in that spot.
The only reason he's in that spot is because he's got, 20 million, 40 million Twitter, Instagram followers.
Yeah. And I'm just imagining being one of the people, either their match was moved to Friday SmackDown off Mania, or someone that didn't feature at all and has worked, every house show, worked every TV, probably in a middling spot, and then just didn't get the call for Mania. It must be infuriating. Aleister
Black's been not seen on anything for... Like, when Aleister Black got a call up from NXT, I think I said to you at the time, he'll main event WrestleMania in a couple of years. All those guys that were in that Andre Battle Royal on SmackDown, like you said, the really good four-way tag match on the SmackDown for the SmackDown tag team titles. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I didn't actually.
Street Profits, Dolph and Robert Roode.
Yeah, they showed like a highlights package of it, I think.
Right.
It might have been on the pre-show,
right.
Which I kind of skipped through.
The Mysterios and Chad Gable and Otis, they put on a really good match. Like, these people have been put aside, and I get it, you're trying to appeal to as many people as possible, all that, but like you say, all the acclaim for Bad Bunny, like, he was really good. It's like the acclaim is because people are shocked at how good he was because he's not a wrestler. But there's so many wrestlers that could have been in that spot that could have put on a really good performance. Like, it doesn't, to me, it's completely disproportionate. Sorry.
I wouldn't have had as big an issue if he'd been, in somebody's corner or something like that. And that's fine. And surely you still get the eyeballs. You still advertise it as this is a thing. And I don't know if part of it, maybe he really wanted to do this. Maybe he wanted to be in the ring, and they've kind of bowed to that. I
think the whole thing is he's like a huge fan, and he's always been really respectful. And I think I read the other day that he like shows like SmackDown clips on his tour and stuff like that. He seems to be a massive big fan, and he's supposed to be training really hard at Performance Centre and all that. Fine, like you and I are massive big fans. Admittedly, we don't have that many Instagram followers, but
not quite.
If we did, I'd like to think that I would be able to say, do you know what, I don't think that I'll do this, but I will be a guest referee in a match between The Miz and Damien Priest, or I can perform the song when it comes out or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fucking shite. The whole angle's shite. All this pish about painting on his Bugatti. Like, who gives a shit about a millionaire's Bugatti getting painted on by these two jokers?
Yeah.
John Morrison is an amazing wrestler. The best thing he got to do in this match was help Bad Bunny give him a Canadian destroyer, and he did an absolutely epic spinneroonie.
Yeah, I did. As I was watching it, I was thinking that move on the outside, that's like 99% of that has been performed by Morrison.
The other guy, yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty obvious watching it, and it looked great, but it doesn't happen if the guy taking the move isn't a very skilled wrestler.
Exactly. Like, an impressive thing is Pat McAfee fighting Adam Cole, and Pat McAfee being the one that takes the Canadian destroyer from Adam Cole, and he does all the work.
Yeah. I was also a bit annoyed from I haven't seen a lot of Damien Priest, who is apparently very good, but you only saw so much of him in this. And yeah, he gets the hot tag, and he goes on the offense and all that, but he's only been able to work a few minutes of this match, because so much of it was having to get the Bad Bunny stuff in.
Yeah, he had a really good, I think he did he I don't know, you probably don't know, I think he debuted at the Rumble though.
Yes.
If he did, he made a big impression at the Rumble.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And it's obviously not been wasted because he's had TV time because of Bad Bunny, but he probably looked at it as a bit like his henchman sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've probably wasted enough time in this. This was shit, and it should not have been on WrestleMania. Is that fair?
Yep, agreed.
Cool. Now, I think we got a little video on night 2 that said, you've tried your hardest with us, now it's time for you to fuck off on tour.
Yeah.
Triple H, I bet Triple H loves listening to Bad Bunny.
Yeah, he came out looking a bit, badass biker as well, Triple H, and yeah, that was quite strange, but maybe that's it. And I kind of hope I just don't ever need to see Bad Bunny in the ring again.
You're gonna look him up on YouTube? Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure it's my jam. That, yep.
Maybe look up some of his indie work. So we got to the main event, which had also had a really shit backstory. I think, did Bianca win the Rumble? She did.
Yeah, she won the Rumble, and then there was this, I don't know, I think they were maybe trying to keep both babyface to some extent, and it was the sort of the character that Banks plays, which is, the boss character, who is quite arrogant for a babyface and all that, and then trying to hold down, almost pat on the head, you've done well, but it felt quite forced.
Aye. And I think Banks, like you say, a natural tendency is a heel, arrogant heel, but through that Bayley feud, she was playing the babyface, and that worked because Bayley played a really good heel, and is really charismatic. Nevertheless, Michael Cole must add another shot of hyperbole. Sasha Banks may go down as the best ever.
Yeah.
He didn't say the best woman ever, or the best women's SmackDown champion ever. She may go down as the best ever.
Yeah. He was on a bit of a hyper, wasn't he? He was getting a bit ahead of himself. And I always feel a bit bad because you don't know what he's saying
being told
and what he's being fed. So it did seem a bit of a stretch, that one. I think there's every chance she has a very, a stellar career. It's going to be a good career. And there's already plenty of accomplishments, but you can't get... She wasn't even an afterthought when we were going through our top fives. She wasn't mentioned.
Damn it, what are we thinking?
And
we might have to revisit that top 5 GOATs conversation.
Yeah, we'll say, sorry Ric Flair, you're still out, but we are amending it.
Fuck The Undertaker. Here's someone with a real WrestleMania streak. Sasha Banks 0-6 at WrestleMania. This had a couple of good bits.
I thought, the in-ring story's good, actually.
Aye. Sasha Banks was really good. And Belair's just an absolute machine. That gorilla press, I've never seen anything like that before. The gorilla press on the outside, and she walks up the steps with her still holding her. Yeah, that was cool. I've got written down here worst frog splash I have ever seen, but I don't know who it was.
Just check my notes and see if I say anything about that. I don't seem to have written anything down about that. Yeah, not sure. I did notice, see at the start, they were playing, Belair was quite emotional, almost in that I can't believe I'm here, I can't believe I'm, in this match, at this event type thing. And Banks was continuing the sort of cocky, Sasha Banks routine, which was quite a nice contrast. And then, they've... as you mentioned, that press slam walking up the steps, that was just impressive, and I think she held her up for a suplex for a really long time as well. Which was just impressive show of strength.
Yeah, she also did a really impressive 450 splash. And Banks put her knees up. That looked genuinely sore.
I don't know how that wouldn't hurt. That was good. That was a nice sequence, that.
And it was quite they did a really good job of, just like you're saying there, portraying the emotion. Bianca Belair, she shows her emotions in a really genuine way as a face. I've seen her in NXT as a heel, and she works really well as a heel as well. Okay. Which bodes well for the future. Yeah,
absolutely. I hadn't really seen this happen before, but they were using her hair against her on quite a few occasions in the match, which I thought was quite an interesting twist and a way to use things, and quite logical as well if somebody's got hair like that.
Warrior should have tried that with Hogan. That's what that match was missing.
I just got a really funny image in my mind.
Stop pulling my hair, brother.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say on this. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think I had a bit of a sour taste in my mouth from Miz Morrison and Bad Bunny and Damien Priest, but I think this did what it was supposed to do. Raised the emotions, raised the stakes, and went out on a high.
There was the finishing sequence was quite good, and then Michael Cole.
Oh God.
He seemed to convince himself that there'd been a kick out, and I don't know. There's just this few seconds where I'm looking, thinking, I think she's won. I don't think there was a kick out, and then the other announcers are kind of a bit quiet, and you're like, he's just fucked up. That's all it was.
That was weird.
I've got to assume. I know JR always used to say he didn't want to know the outcome of the matches because he wanted to call it as if, you know, somebody's seeing it for the first time and he wants to be able to react that way. I assume Michael Cole wouldn't have known what the finish was, and he must have genuinely thought that there was a kick out. It was weird.
That's the risk you run, I suppose, with that sort of thing, yeah. But it kind of, it's not taking away anything at all. But like if you go back and watch that again, you'd be like, what are you on about, mate?
Yeah.
Aye, that was odd. But aye, a nice way to finish. Night one, which was on the whole passable.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, if you look at the, you know, Lashley McIntyre being a solid match, Cesaro Rollins being very good, you know, the almost situation from that tag match, and then that main event, I think there was enough in there for it to be, you know, a decent night. Yeah,
agreed. And if that was a one-off pay-per-view, it would be a good pay-per-view.
Yep, yeah, I think so. Night two. Right.
I've got an exclusive for you, Adam.
Okay.
Just bear with me 2 seconds. I'm going to get a little bit of footage, because I managed to speak to a friend of the show, Randy Orton. Just to find out what he thought about his match with the Fiend. So just bear with me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Randy, thanks for joining us on the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. Really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. I just wondered what you made of your match with the Fiend on night 2 of WrestleMania.
How do I put this? The absolute drizzling shits.
So that was Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Nice of him to stop by.
Yep.
Talk to me. You know,
Right.
you spoke about how night 1 they started us off with a bang with Lashley McIntyre.
Yeah.
This was a bad call.
Yeah, so I had my fear about this match going in, because I don't like kind of where they've gone with the Fiend character. It's almost like they've boxed themselves into a bit of a storyline corner, and there isn't anywhere logical even before this match to go with it. I was a big fan of Bray Wyatt when he was kind of playing the cult leader type, and you know, a little bit of the sort of Max Cady from Cape Fear type character, which I got quite into. And then I really liked the Fiend when it debuted, but I think there's always been this fear of, well, where do you go? What's next? And the Alexa Bliss stuff playing in, and it just, you know, even in the montage before it that I watched, I was thinking, this is weird. I don't know what this is meant to be. I don't know what's going on. And the worst bit about it, because not knowing can be fine, but I didn't care, like, at all. I just thought, I've seen Fiend Orton before, I don't care. And I think you mentioned to me earlier that apparently Fiend was supposed to go over. This was all changed quite late in the day for the bizarre reason that nobody will see it coming. What?
Classic Pritchard.
Yeah, and even if the Fiend had won, I mean, where do you go? Where is this going?
Who gives a, like you say, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
really.
And it felt like a waste of Orton, who, you know, is a good performer and can kind of go up against pretty much any opponent and anywhere on the card, really. Could be used to elevate young guys and things like that. And the Fiend, who, you know, Bray Wyatt, who can, I think, have a lot to offer as a performer and as a character, but this was just nothing and pointless. It may as well not have happened.
Agreed. That's exactly what I've got written down. This is a waste of Randy Orton. You've essentially wasted, by doing that magical, mystical thing that the Fiend walked through, where all the burnt marshmallows came off him before he came out. You've basically rubbed out. You've erased the last, whatever it was, last 2 months or however long this shite's been going on for.
Yeah.
I think they were selling merchandise based on him looking that way, by the way. That's awful. But you've wasted all that. It's gone, and now he's just back to being the Fiend. You've got all, like you say, you've got all this nonsense with Alexa Bliss. By the way, you know these cameos that WWE are doing, and you can pay $500 to get a cameo. They must be working with the FBI or something, because they need to have a list of the people that are requesting a cameo from Alexa Bliss behaving like a little girl.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
That's questionable behaviour. Anyway,
yeah.
if you are buying a cameo from Alexa Bliss for $500, we will find you. How about that? Or we'll get Chris Hansen to find you.
That's better. That seems like less effort for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Have a seat right there. Aye, like you say, and so they've got her come down. Randy looked pretty cool in the white stuff, I thought.
Yeah.
Rare to see him in that colour. Alexa comes down, opens up this big fucking gimmicked box. The Fiend comes out. Like, it's all theatrical. That's the problem with the Fiend, is he has to get in the ring and wrestle.
Yeah. And
you take everything away when he gets in the ring.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, you know, he probably can wrestle. It's just not.
He's just got Bray Wyatt. It's just Bray Wyatt, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's doing the exact same stuff as Bray Wyatt ever did.
Yeah. And yeah. I think unless you're The Undertaker as a gimmick, it's going to have a shortish shelf life, and it's gone. It needs. He needs to find a totally different character, I think, and then you kind of have to accept that that's probably going to have a short shelf life as well. I think it's going to be about reinvention and how they do it, because this for me is done, and I'm sure I'm not alone. We're not alone in that. It's just done. Move on.
Well, we'll get more matches for it though, won't we? We'll probably get more of it. Yeah. So I don't know. I've not watched Raw or anything like that, but I think I read that Alexa Bliss believed, this could be totally wrong, but I think I read that Alexa Bliss believes that she is more powerful than the Fiend, and she can exist without him these days. That's why she had oil pishing for her eyebrows.
Of course. I should have realised. All makes sense now.
There wasn't even a good reason behind it. People were theorising what if it was to do Aleister Black, because of the way she was sitting and all that sort of stuff. That would have at least been half intriguing, interesting, maybe. Please give Randy Orton something better to do.
Yeah,
just like you say, stick him anywhere else on this card, and like stick him in that Sheamus and Matt Riddle botch fest. At least he would. I don't know. He doesn't seem to care, does he?
I don't think, you know, when I watched the Broken Skull session with him, he did talk about the fact he doesn't say no to an awful lot of things, but
clearly,
like even when he was asked to work with Drew McIntyre, apparently at first he was like, really, I don't know, you know, what am I going to get out of that? But he ended up really enjoying the programme. Maybe he thought, with this, maybe I'll enjoy it when I do it, but he's probably regretting that now.
We'll see where it goes. Well, actually, we won't see where it goes, because we'll probably not be touching anything current for a long time. It didn't get any better. We had our victors from night one, Natalya and Tamina, taking on Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the women's. Is this the women's tag team titles, or is it Raw tag team titles, or are they just Universal? I don't know.
I've just written women's tag team titles, but don't take that as a...
Who cares? Yeah. This was kind of... Shayna Baszler's good, and I liked her in NXT. She had a fairly decent match with Becky Lynch last WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think she strikes me as somebody that Vince just lost all of his interest in.
She's not a sports entertainer, is she?
Yeah. she's a bit too, I think, MMA style for Vince to hold enough of an interest. But at least she was still on the card, I suppose.
True.
But yeah, it didn't. Yeah, I wasn't very interested.
Aye. I actually thought that Baszler and Jax might drop the titles and they might do something different with them. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them to do something with them with that Raw women's title picture, because, well, we'll get on to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, I don't know about you, but watching this match, I was getting flashbacks to WrestleMania 3 when Tamina slammed Nia Jax. It brought all that feeling of Hogan slamming Andre right back.
It wasn't the most convincing slam I've ever seen.
It was like, here, jump up and then fall back down again.
Yeah.
Aye. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax retain their titles. We don't care.
Yeah.
The next match, two guys that I think we both are fans of, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
Yep.
I appreciated some of the stuff that Kevin Owens did with Roman Reigns round about the turn of the year. He had some good matches with him, and I've actually written down here that I felt that Kevin Owens he deserves being involved in some sort of main event, WrestleMania main event. Don't think he's had one.
No, I don't think he has, and I agree. I, like you, really like both Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Two guys that I think have kind of been, especially Sami Zayn, underused a bit over the last couple of years. And I had to catch up in the story a little bit by watching the package at the start, and it was quite good. It was a good package. It showed, I knew from the last pay-per-view that Sami Zayn had the camera crew and was thinking there was a conspiracy against him and all that, and then seeing what I more needed to see is how Owens kind of fitted into that, and it explained that, because I knew going in that they'd been friends and things like that.
They've got a backstory,
yeah, and it just sort of brought that back into my mind, which was good. And I quite like the story, and I like the character Sami Zayn's playing. I think it kind of suits him. He's playing it in a very believable way, and it's just giving him something to, I think, probably sink his teeth into a bit. And I thought the whole story of, Kevin Owens as the friend who's like, look, just listen to me, just hear me out. If I see anything, I'll speak up, but you're kind of flying off on this conspiracy theory thing. And I thought this is all very believable storytelling. I liked it, and I didn't hate the match, actually. I thought the match was pretty good. They have chemistry between them. They can work together. I wasn't as big a fan of the involvement of Logan Paul, but at least he, throughout the duration of the match, he wasn't in the ring. He was kind of just sitting on the sidelines looking on. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good match, actually.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it as well. There were some good spots in it. I liked the Michinoku driver that Sami Zayn hit, and I liked Michael Cole did something good. He shouted Michinoku driver. Somebody else called it something, and he called it Michinoku driver. So thank you, Michael Cole. We salute you for that.
There was a nice series of offense by Sami Zayn. One of the moves I've written down was a brainbuster, and
on the apron.
Yeah,
that's hellacious.
And he got quite a good bit of momentum going, and I think going into it's one of those where I was like, yeah, Owens is going to get the win, and you kind of know the way that it's all going to play out, in that Sami Zayn will be in some way having a confrontation with Logan Paul at the end of this in some way or another. But yeah, I quite like Owens using the stunner as well.
Me too.
I know he's done it a while, and it's one of those moves. It's always going to be associated with Steve Austin, Stone Cold. Of course it is, but it doesn't mean to say somebody else can't pick it up and put their spin on it and use it and things like that.
It suits them.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, I thought, you know, like you say, hopefully this is maybe going to be some momentum for Owens. I know he was in the title picture when he was up against Roman Reigns for a series. I think they did the right thing, not taking the title off Reigns, but I do think Owens is a guy they can use near the top of the card.
Yeah, I wrote down that Kevin Owens is Kane, and that it doesn't matter where they put him, whether it's in tag teams or in the title picture, he can hold the title and you believe him. He can go all the way down to like US title or the Intercontinental title.
Yeah.
He fits in anywhere and he does a really good job anywhere.
Yeah.
I like the finish to this, the two super kicks and then the stunner. Like you say, the stunner works for him. Yeah. And I liked Logan Paul getting stunned as well. Yeah,
that was good. And again, it was logical the way it played out. You know, you've got Logan Paul almost like, you know, aligning himself with the winner, and then, you know, the sort of logic of Kevin Owens being like, well, you know, why do I care about Logan Paul? Sami Zayn was my friend. You know, I'm not that pleased with the way this is all going.
Yeah.
And then just giving him the stunner kind of made sense, I thought.
Agreed. I liked it. In the back we get the RVD, Riddle and Great Khali segment that we've all been fiending for. I actually found that genuinely funny. I can't even remember what they were talking about, but was he talking about you should open a giant store with giant toilets and giant scooters, bro?
Yeah.
I like this. I take it you're not a big fan of this.
Do you know, I just... It's fine for what it is. You know, it's not taking itself seriously. I just worry a little bit from Riddle's point of view that this is the character he's
stuck with it now.
Yeah. And I don't know that Vince will ever be able to see past it. Because it's, you know, RVD being there was quite a, you know, it was... RVD was never that character in ECW, and then Vince just decided, this is how I see you, and I don't know if he ever moved past it with RVD.
He likes smoking dope.
Yeah. So yeah, I do. I just worry a wee bit from a future point of view for Riddle, if that's it now, if that's what he is forever.
I do like the scooter entrance as well. He amuses me. He clearly seems to be enjoying himself. Yeah,
and he comes across as he has got a good balance of coming across as somebody who doesn't take things too seriously but does in the ring, which is good, because that's a good balance to have, because you need to be seen as taking things seriously in the ring.
You know who we're describing, Adam?
Who's that?
Come on, Kurt Angle.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Former shoot fighter turned sports entertainer.
You're going to keep pushing this one on there.
Good at comedy backstage, intense in the ring. Come on. Anyway, let's talk about the match. I know that you didn't like it.
Right. So I did mention to you that I was going to watch it again, because I watched it the first time and all I kept seeing were mistakes. And I've heard, like, Bruce Pritchard will say, you know, live TV, there's no such thing as a mistake. If that happens, it's because it was meant to happen, you know. And that's fine, I get it, because...
What sort of reason is that? That doesn't make sense.
I think what he's kind of getting at is a lot of wrestling is positioned as almost like a synchronised, you know, dance routine or something like that.
Choreography, aye.
Yeah, and when you're in a fight with somebody, not everything's going to go off perfectly. You know, not every move is going to be executed exactly the same way every time, things like that. And
but this is fake fighting, though.
Yeah, and there were a couple of... I do see a lot of upside with Riddle, as long as he doesn't get too bogged down with the
birds,
bro, dude, you know, all that. I do think there's a potential absolute superstar in there, and
like Kurt Angle a bit.
And I just want to keep that kind of comparison down a bit, because Kurt Angle is
a drug addict.
He didn't make our top 5, but I would have had him in the conversation if I'd been doing a 10. And there are some similarities, and he's clearly got amazing athletic skills, Riddle. And some of the moves, like there's a move where they're on the top turnbuckle, and he does like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a suplex, but he carries him over and lands on top of him, and it's smooth and it looks amazing.
It's like a Spanish fly, but a belly to belly. Like he landed on top of him.
And he's obviously, I think from what the announcers were saying, got a bit of a moniker for being innovative. Like you'll kind of create moves and things like that. And that, I think, was an example of just something that I've probably seen similar things, but you hadn't seen that before, and it looked great. The worry I had was that there were just a few spots that didn't look right, and there's obviously, I think the one people would have picked up on was the one where Sheamus was going to, I don't know what his move's called, where he kind of had Riddle up on the top turnbuckle, and he was going to do some sort of slam or something like that onto him from the top rope. And I think Sheamus has very quickly realised, I'm not going to have the footing for this, so he's played it safe and dropped down to the mat, which was the right thing to do if he thought, shit, this could go wrong. Because he never really seemed to gain his balance on the top turnbuckle. It's a shame, because it looked bad. It looked like, this is clearly not what's supposed to happen, but you're better bowing out rather than potentially hurting both of you, which is what could have happened if he tried to go through with it and execute it. That had stood out in my mind. There was also a point where, just like a standing suplex, Riddle couldn't get Sheamus up.
Yeah, that was weird.
And then he did it again, and the landing didn't look great off it. And I just kept thinking, is he going to drop him on his head? And I wasn't sure. Did you think, the finish of the match? I'm getting maybe a wee bit ahead of myself. Did you think that was supposed to be executed like that?
I think so. I don't know if they mistimed it or something, though.
Because he clearly took an actual kick, Riddle, and that's fine. You get a bit of blood and things like that, and it looked a bit messy, and I wasn't sure if there'd been a little bit of mistiming between the two of them. I
thought the whole match was quite stiff. At times it looked like they were, I don't know. Sheamus especially, I felt was, I don't know I don't really remember seeing a lot of Sheamus matches, but it felt like, like I say, like a lot of it was really quite stiff. And they were really hitting each other,
It wouldn't surprise me at all if Sheamus is a stiff worker. I think that maybe would be his style. I think I remember thinking when he had match with McIntyre, it looked pretty stiff as well between the two of them. I just I kept thinking as I was watching the match that they didn't have great chemistry between them, because there seemed to be so many elements where the timing was off and things like that.
Quite awkward.
Yeah, and that's not to say that either is a bad worker. It's just, I think sometimes they don't mesh together that well, the two of them.
Yeah.
I do agree with you in thinking that there is a lot of potential upside in Riddle. I think he's got quite a natural charisma about him, even when he's got the kind of gimmick he's got just now. In the ring, he comes across charismatic. He's got something very watchable about him. Sheamus doesn't. He's kind of feels a bit the opposite. Not to come across too harsh, but he's never. I remember when he had the world title and stuff like that, and I just never bought it. It just didn't do anything for me, Sheamus.
Actually, I've got that written down here. Is there anyone out there who is in fact a Sheamus fan?
Oh yeah.
There can't be many. And I was also noting that in kayfabe, Sheamus is just a complete dick. Like he just... I can't believe I'm saying the sentence. He just wrecked his scooter for no reason. But just going back over other things that he's done, he's just a bit of a dick. Not like a heel dick. Like, oh, he's a bad guy sort of thing, and you're supposed to think that, but he's just a bit of a dick.
Just like an adult version of a school bully or something like that.
Aye. Well, with less charisma and worse hair.
And no friends.
Or tan. Fuck you, Sheamus.
Yeah. Being
Anyway.
pale's his thing. That's his gimmick.
Translucent. Right. I think we've said enough about that. We're looking forward to seeing more Riddle matches. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
The next Kurt Angle.
Well, I do wonder what's next for him.
Rey Mysterio?
Okay.
No.
I do, because I was a bit surprised they took the title off him, to be honest. I thought he would come out as winner of that match.
Do you think a push?
Yeah, but sometimes that is what they're doing when they take that sort of level of belt off somebody. They're actually doing it because they have bigger plans in mind for the guy. I don't know if he's ready to go into like a world title program, but it might be that he's matched up with somebody quite high in the card, which I think would be good for him.
Maybe Braun's ready to stand up to him for anybody that's ever been knocked down by a scooter. Right, we've got our first ever, certainly for me, a Nigerian drum fight, which we found out is just a straightforward non-disqualification match with artifacts that they've stolen from places around the ring, like a gong and things like that.
I have my first note about this, because again I'm watching the build. There's obviously, I've heard it in the past said that there's all these words that Vince doesn't want said on air, and you're not supposed to say hospital, you're supposed to say medical facility. I'm listening to Big E, who says the words all in the build, as I laid up in a medical facility. He just sounded like an idiot. But anyway, that's beside the point. It's just something I noticed, and I obviously took the effort to write it down because it just sounded stupid.
I noticed that, saying that, I noticed Michael Cole saying fans quite a lot. And I thought they weren't supposed to say fans. I thought they were supposed to refer to them as the WWE Universe. But
yeah, I think that's right.
This at least had some semblance of a build. Like, I wasn't entirely intrigued by it, but it at least had a bit of a build. Apollo Crews has watched Blood Diamond and started speaking like DiCaprio's character. And he's turned into... this is obviously a bit of a thing. He's turned into a dick and has started bringing a spear with him to the ring. And he wanted to have a Nigerian drum fight with Big E, who he'd assaulted. That's the backstory, essentially.
Yep.
Couple of big spots in this. Like I said to you on text, I don't really believe Big E. I know a lot of people are quite high on him, but I don't really, I don't get it. I don't think. A lot of people saying he's being groomed to fight, to challenge Roman, but I just don't see it.
Nah, I think I quite liked him as part of the group. You know, when they had the New Day as a sort of three-man tag team and things like that, and I quite liked him as comedy. I thought he came across as quite funny, actually, which I don't want to say that was his spot and that was his level and that's what I think of him as, but I did find him more believable in that kind of role.
But then, like, a bit of a powerhouse in the ring.
Yeah.
And that worked, but like you say, when he's coming across with this sort of impassioned speech. It's just a bit like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, mate. They had a half decent match. I like that he hit him with Apollo standing on the apron, and Big E does a spear from the inside out through the ropes. I like that. That's good. Apollo tries to do a concerto with the steps, which was would have been murder if he'd managed to do that. There's a point where they both had kendo sticks right at the start. Yeah. Because in a Nigerian drum fight, the first thing you're supposed to get is a kendo stick and then have a duel. So Kevin Dunn decides to just start flicking all the camera buttons as they're hitting each other, and I nearly skipped it because I was like, I am going to have an epileptic fit.
Yeah, I think someone, there's a former wrestler, is Lance Storm, tweeted that he had to put it off, and he said that he was enjoying the show and he was really looking forward to, I think, the main event, but he had to actually switch it off because he was feeling unwell.
What, this match or the main event?
This match.
Bloody hell.
Because of what was going on with the cameras and the lights and stuff like that. Yeah.
When they were hitting each other with those kendo sticks, it was ridiculous. I don't know, just really odd. Yeah, it's like when somebody points that out to you, you can't unsee it. Yeah, these the flicking of the cameras, it's ridiculous. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of highlight in this match?
The last thing I've got in my notes is some massive guy appears and destroys Big E.
Yeah, I thought this was Damien Priest. I was like, oh, he's back. They're giving him something decent to do. Who did you think you thought it was? Tamina.
At first glance, Tamina, yeah. But yeah, it was one of those where I thought, because I don't watch TV, have I missed something? But then I think the announcers are playing the same. They're like, who is that? And stuff like that. So obviously that is just somebody who has first time appeared on the night and is aligned with Apollo Crews.
I think it's a guy that was on, Raw. They had Raw Underground.
Yeah.
What's his name's like Babu Tende or something like that. Does that ring a bell with you at all? No?
Slight, yeah.
But yeah, they're obviously going with the whole Nigerian gimmick, and he's aligned to Apollo Crews. Yeah. Fair enough. That's them taking the title off Big E. Maybe he will get pushed, similar to what we were just saying about Riddle. Oh dear. Then we had the Raw Women's title match.
Yeah.
Which was not good as far as I'm concerned.
I struggled a little bit with it in that I feel like if you go back a couple of years ago, it felt like the women's division was on fire. And, justifiably main event in WrestleMania and things like that. It does feel like it's dipped a bit, and it's not to say there aren't good performers in it. Of course there are. And the match on night one that ended up being the main event, I think kind of justified itself being in that slot. This one, it just really felt less than, and I hadn't seen an awful lot of Rhea Ripley, who's a very physically imposing, impressive looking performer. I'd seen Asuka in a few matches, and again, good performer and all that. I think she came in really hot from NXT, and basically went and won everything, and then kind of was never in the top spot from then on, really. But I don't know, it just didn't really do a lot for me.
Nah. Yeah, there's a few botches in this as well. It just looked really bad.
Yeah.
We had just this. It goes back to this demographic thing, and who is this? Who listens to that music? Like, I know we're the middle-aged Outlaws and all that, but that's fucking garbage.
The sort of, I just, is it too much to expect a singer would be able to sing? I don't know.
Oh, that sounds like an old person thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what you were hoping for was, we're Motorhead and we're gonna kick your ass, and then like mumbling through, forgetting all the lyrics. That's what we're after. This shite is the 10th wonder of the world. Rhea Ripley comes out and does her big stomp thing, and the fireworks didn't go off, so she did it again.
I mean, they've put over Rhea Ripley, and I assume she's gonna be a bit of a monster champion.
I think so. I think Triple H will be a big Rhea Ripley fan. Yeah,
and that's fine. It didn't grab me, and it's not to say that a few months down the line I might see a match of hers and think, that was good, but I just don't see anything in it just now.
Me too. I agree. I did like Rhea Ripley paying homage to the Road Dogg with the pump handle slam. She forgot to do the little thrusty bit, but
yeah.
New champion, well done, Rhea Ripley.
Yep.
I think I've missed out the Hall of Fame. I don't know at what point that was, but we had the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but it might have been before the Asuka Ripley match.
Right, okay, so with RVD, Kane, was this with one of the guys from backstage got the Warrior award?
I think was this the one British Bulldog was in, or was he night?
He was the first night, I think.
Was the first night.
Bischoff was in this one as well.
Yes,
looking goddamn beautiful.
He was, yeah.
That man knows good hair.
Absolutely, I'm very jealous.
We got a trailer for Saul Goodman's new attempt at being the next Liam Neeson.
Yep.
Because obviously if you're watching WrestleMania, then you're into shit films. So here's a trailer, which leads us to the crown jewel of WrestleMania, the main event of main events. Roman Reigns, the champion, versus the Royal Rumble winner Edge, versus Daniel Bryan in a triple threat match.
Yes.
This was well worth sitting through all of this shite on night 2 for me.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think we've talked before about what, we definitely talked about all the WrestleManias and a great main event being on top, and you want it to feel like the main event, and it can be a big letdown, or it can kind of make the show worth having watched through. And this was awesome, and I remember I'd watched it before you, and I didn't want to message you anything about it until you'd watched it, because I thought if I say anything, it might either big it up too much, and then you go in with expectations really high, or it might you might watch it and not think it was awesome, and I might be like, what? And I just thought, no, I'll say nothing. I'll just not mention it at all. And I'd also been really sceptical about adding Daniel Bryan to it beforehand, because I didn't think it needed it, and I still think it would have been a very good one-on-one match, but I just thought it was a brilliant match.
Yep, I agree. Some of the things around this match, obviously Edge had his WrestleMania return last year, but he didn't get a chance to do that in front of the crowd. So although he had been showing heel tendencies in the run-up and the build-up, he certainly wasn't received as a heel. It was really nice to hear that, to legitimately hear that pop for him, and he was loving it. I thought we might have got a live Alter Bridge performance, but apparently Brutality by Ash Costello was higher priority. Anyway, and I like that. I like the whole kind of thing about these three guys have all had to step away at some point due to illness or injury, and here they are, basically the three biggest stars on this show, and they really are. Both nights, I would say, are the three biggest stars, and what they've done with Roman is just ridiculously elevated him above anybody else in the company, as far as I'm concerned. His total box office
I really liked, see, when you talk about the intros, you've got quite a sort of contrast between, you know, Daniel Bryan probably playing up to this could well be my last ever WrestleMania. I think his contract's up before the next Mania.
Right.
And, you know, he got some of his yes chants and all that, but he was playing the I am very happy to be here. And then you got Edge coming out to a really good pop from the crowd, but he is the hyper intense Edge. And there's this element about Roman Reigns now, who I wasn't sure this would all work, you know, even turning him heel. I didn't have the confidence that he could get over massively, but there's this sort of calm, quiet confidence about him now. And even just on the intro and the walking down, he played it so perfectly. And he's, you know, clearly full of belief that I deserve to be here. I deserve to be on top. I am the man. And it just comes across. Mm-hmm. And it's like this new confidence. It's really impressive to see.
He's exuding character without even doing anything. This slow amble to the ring with a head held high, and he's got Heyman, special counsel Paul Heyman, like weirdly staring at him all the time. Don't know if you've ever noticed that.
I have, yeah. It's like this this almost adulation look. It's quite something, actually, because I don't even really remember him doing that with Lesnar.
No,
it was a far more, you know, he's my buddy type dynamic with Lesnar.
And Jey Uso, like what I think what they've been able to do with Jey Uso and what he's been able to do to separate himself, you don't really think about him as a guy that's missing his brother as a tag team. I think they've done a really good job with him, and he's like that dastardly pain in the ass that won't stop appearing. And I like the t-shirt right hand man, like all that character suits him, and I think he's really good at it. It's
a great role for him, and I think it does just show, it's probably an indication of how many really talented guys there are backstage that they're just not utilising properly. Not everyone can be in the main event, not everyone can be the top guy, but everyone can be playing a role. And he has found this role and he's excelled in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the spots in here were just, it was just spot after spot, and you get that with a triple threat because you can take a guy out and the other guys can go at it, then somebody comes back in, you got another combination of guys, and it worked really well. I liked Edge taking out Jey Uso after Jey was just a complete menace straight in the ring, and super kicking people and all that sort of stuff, and Edge gives him the face bust, the brain buster on the stairs, sacrifices himself and takes him out the match. I think I may be jumping quite far ahead here, but there's a spot where Edge and Roman both go for the spear, and they're like a couple of buffalo smashing into each other in the head. I thought it was a really good spot.
Yeah, I really liked that spot as well, because it hadn't really crossed my mind that there's two guys in there who use the same move. And then when it happened, because I think they'd both individually done spears or gone for spears in the match, so it all made sense. And it was good, because I hadn't seen that before. I thought that was a good thing for them to put in. And everyone got their chance to have their period of offense and things like that, but they didn't do too much of the all three guys in the ring at the same time. And I thought that was good, because it almost one gets in the way of the other and things become illogical, and you end up thinking, well, why is that guy just taking a breather just now? They had it logical where there would be a big spot, either at times by Jey Uso taking somebody out, or somebody's taken out on the outside and they're not going to play a part for a little while. I just thought it was really logically done.
Yep, no, agreed. I think from here you've got two really big spots that are like the main part of the match. So you've got Roman standing up on the steps, powerbombing Daniel Bryan through the table, which was brutal. He's standing mouthing off to the crowd, and Edge spears him off the steps, which was class.
Yeah, that was good.
And like Roman's getting genuine heat for the crowd there, and Edge just kind of comes out of nowhere and hits him with a spear. Then you've got Roman and Edge back in the ring. Edge is putting in chairs like you're thinking to yourself, concerto in your head. Roman takes it off him, and eventually Edge ends up sticking him in a crossface.
Yeah.
Then out of nowhere, Bryan appears, and he sticks on. Is that his yes lock that he put on? And they're both got the submission on Roman. That was incredible. I've never seen that done before. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think I have in a triple threat before, and I think it was maybe in the Jericho Benoit angle. I think Kurt Angle ended up in both the Benoit's crossface and the Walls of Jericho at the same time.
Right.
But what I really liked about this, there was a point Reigns was about to tap out, and Bryan jumps in the ring and catches his hand just before he applies his move. I just thought, really nice little spot to put in. I thought that was good.
And Edge is looking at a bit, it's almost a little bit of comedy there, and Edge is like, let go to Daniel Bryan, and they start headbutting each other. And Roman's getting pulled about all over the place, and he actually ends up tapping on Edge's leg. Don't know if you saw, I saw on Twitter, he's tapping on Edge's leg, and I wonder if he's saying like, remember that I'm in here whilst you guys are headbutting each other, because he's got that bit of the chair in his mouth, I think, at this point.
Yeah, he does, which again was a nice little, just, I've seen a crossface plenty of times over the years, but just adding a slightly different element to it.
Aye. So then at some point, I think after this, they get to a point where Edge has hit a spear on Bryan, or he's hit a spear on Roman, and it looks like he's won it. And Daniel Bryan pulls the ref out the ring.
Yeah.
Miraculously gets back on his feet, pulls the ref out the ring. Edge goes absolutely bananas with a chair. Yep. And he sets Roman up for the one-man concerto.
Yeah.
What happened from there? Daniel Bryan come in. Oh no, Jey Uso appears again, of course.
So Jey Uso's just recovered enough to make the save, and then they go into the Edge spears Jey Uso to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. Reigns hits Edge with the spear. Reigns then does the concerto on Edge, and does he do one on Daniel Bryan?
Does one on Bryan as well. Yeah. Bryan's doing this crazy convulsing thing with his legs. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, kind of maybe overselling it a wee bit. And then I really liked the way they did the pin. Actually.
Oh, me too.
I just thought, you've got your guy. Have him beat both. That I really liked that, because Roman Reigns is basically the only thing keeping this going. From a WWE point of view, in terms of my interest in storylines and everything like that, and it probably will get stale at a point, but it's nowhere near there yet. So for him to just definitively have his "I am pinning both men at the same time" moment and being able to walk away with the belt, I just thought was such a good way to finish it.
I totally agree. Like, they've made him look like, obviously he looks like an absolute animal. Mm-hmm. Like something as simple as taking that bloody bulletproof vest off him, he just looks like an absolute Hercules. Mm-hmm. But they've shown that he's got this weakness, this arrogance of like, acknowledge me and I'm the main event and all that sort of stuff, and just tease these little bits out of him. Yeah. But at the end there, you're taking absolutely nothing away from him, and he looks like an absolute machine. He just looks amazing. Yeah. For me too, I'm the same. I think he's the best thing going. And I think they're really struggling with anybody, even Edge and Daniel Bryan. I think there's a long kind of gap between them. I
think I mentioned this to you earlier, and I think one of the big problems they've got guys that are over. So Edge, even with the heel tendencies, was still getting a good crowd reaction and all that. Daniel Bryan is always going to get a pretty good crowd reaction. But when I'm thinking of your huge baby faces, and I'm talking, you know, you're not going to get an Austin, a Rock, a Hogan, or a Cena just appear like that. But I don't feel like they've got anyone who's ready to match the level of heel Roman Reigns is just now. And it just makes me wonder who's next and kind of where do you go with it, because he's so good at the current role and at being this monster heel that it's hard to imagine anyone competing with him right now.
Yeah, just looking across the card and looking at the people that were wrestling on WrestleMania, especially faces. Yeah, I can only really see Big E. You know, like, unless they go back into another one of those matches with him and Apollo Crews, which I suppose he got kind of screwed out that match by that guy interfering. I guess they maybe do Edge and Roman again. I would guess Daniel Bryan might retreat.
Yeah, and they might well do that. And I think the point Daniel Bryan was making, some of it will be, you know, kayfabe obviously, but I think his intention is to go part-time. And I think his, you know, the story of him wanting to be in the Mania main event and saying this could be my last WrestleMania, I have a feeling he's still going to be at WWE, but working a lot less dates and probably unlikely to ever get the opportunity to headline a Mania again. And I probably wouldn't have that much interest in a Bryan Reigns, you know, one-on-one. I would, you maybe get a match out of it and then you move on. Edge, yeah, I think he's maybe the closest they've got just now, but they need to build someone. They need to get somebody who is maybe just a couple of rungs below and elevate them. It's just how you do that, because it takes time, and Reigns is so far ahead just now that I don't know how you recover that.
What about the return of Jimmy Uso? I was kind of joking, but like, that is a genuine place you could go.
Yeah, I half expected him to have some sort of involvement in this match. It was early on when I was like, okay, so we've seen Jay, right, and Jay is obviously going to be very involved in this match, but Jimmy is kind of, I assume he's legit injured.
I think he has been. I think he's either close to coming. I think I've read he's close to coming back. Who knows?
So there's a few different ways you could play that, because he could align himself and then, you know, turn, or does he come back as the, you know, trying to free Jay from what he sees as the role he's in being inappropriate or something like that, and but then I don't want this Reigns thing to end anytime soon. So does he have to, you know, fight the other brother to get him over to his side, maybe, and maybe you fill a bit of time doing that. But everything I can think of is a bit like that. It's a bit of a fill-in, because nobody seems ready. Like you couldn't right now. You would have to say Roman Reigns would be in next year's Mania main event, but who would the opponent be? There's no real.
What about somebody that was the NXT champion that just dropped the belt?
Well, I would be interested in that. I don't know if Vince would be. I don't know. I always really liked Finn Balor, and it was a shame when it felt like it you know, he just got to the top and then he got hurt, and he's never really been positioned up there again. If I was him, I wouldn't want to leave NXT. I'd just be thinking, whatever they do with me, they'll mess it up.
He's done a good job of reinventing himself. I don't know if you've seen much of him in NXT, but he's done quite a good job of, you know, like, taking away some of these kind of more sort of PG elements that they'd turned him into, and given himself a bit more of a rough edge.
I think it would be a good programme. I'm just not sure they would go for it. Maybe, but I don't think they would do it in a satisfying way. I think it would probably be like, a few weeks of build and then one match and then that's it. But you never know. It needs someone to step up. And yeah, it's just I think we're kind of in similar places right now, where there's Roman Reigns has been excellent, and I've actually really enjoyed his storylines. I think his storylines have been good. But there's kind of nothing right now that makes me want to watch the next event. Because there were some good matches and I'd love to see them push someone like Cesaro, but Roman Reigns is on top. And then there's Bobby Lashley on the other show, who, if they give him a good run as champion, you know, legit, there's interest there. But there's really not a lot else.
There's really not. I'm just looking at, what about Omos? Omos versus Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 38. Book it now.
You might not be far off on that, but
what about Cesaro? If they don't go with a Seth series, then they might do that. It probably seem premature.
I would like it to get there, but I'd like a Seth series first. And I think that's a long bit part of how you get him there. I'm a huge Cesaro fan, but I'm looking at it right now, it would seem too big a leap to me.
They're in a really crap situation, just simply because, like you say, they don't really take the time to build people. They're more likely just to throw Cesaro in there and he'll be back fighting for the US title or something like that in a few months.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Overall, what sort of, on a scale of 0 to 10, would you give WrestleMania 37?
See, when I look through the matches, right, I do wonder, have I been overly harsh? Because I didn't hate Lashley McIntyre. I liked Cesaro Rollins. I thought Banks and Belair was good. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, I enjoyed. Main event was great, so maybe a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's where I am. 5, maybe a 6. If Tamina had got that slam just a wee bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't great. A lot of it felt like a bit of a chore, but what was good was very good, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And I would have, admittedly, I would have skipped a lot of this if I'd just been watching it for entertainment purposes, and not being a martyr so that we could talk about it here. So that was our big build to WrestleMania 37. Yeah, I don't think we'll be doing any more current stuff anytime soon, will we?
The appetite's not there, so we don't want to, depress anyone that's listening too much. So we'll try and find a few things to be we can be a bit more upbeat about, I think.
Beautiful. I love it. So, with that in mind, for our next assignment, we're going a little bit different. We're stepping away from the squared circle, and we are going to the multiplex. We're going to watch some movies. So we are going to do our top 5 movies starring or co-starring wrestlers.
Yeah, I think they have to be at least, prominent in the cast. It can't just be a cameo.
Yep.
But yeah, this is quite exciting, actually, because I mean, there's some films out there that you've obviously got The Rock's been in loads of films now. You've got Cena starting to go into films, but there's some older ones as well, and as things like I'll just throw a name out there that I'm going to watch, the Princess Bride, which Andre the Giant is featured heavily in, and I remember seeing it years and years ago and actually thinking it was a really good film, and I'm almost like giving myself an excuse to go back and watch that again. And then there's all these other films that I haven't actually seen, but I know they star a wrestler, and I'm thinking perfect excuse to give it a watch.
Absolutely. There's some good ones, like you say. I was thinking that about The Princess Bride as well. I've never seen it, so it's a good excuse to give it a watch.
Yeah.
So we'll have some rules, like you say. It can be a cameo. It either needs to have a wrestler co-starring or starring in it, or be centred around wrestling.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
And I think the other rule we talked about was in terms of certainly the star, you could only pick one of their films.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
I don't think we were actually in a position where we were thinking, I'll just pick all the Rock's films. But anyway, but we thought we'll limit it in that way, and that'll give us a little bit of variety in terms of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I thought that really scuppered me, because I immediately went to The Running Man and Predator, but I watched The Running Man and Jesse Ventura's in it for like, I don't know, it must be a maximum 2 minutes of screen time or something like that. Across the piece. It was a good excuse to go and watch The Running Man, right enough.
Yeah, that's fair. I might. Do I need to rewatch Predator? I've seen it quite a few times actually.
My goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. So this is obviously, this is all related to the news that Charlotte Church, I was going to say there, Charlotte Flair was filming a remake of Walking Tall. That's really what this is all related to, isn't it? You were real excited about this news.
Well, I found it a little bit surprising. That seems a weird thing to do.
Like, of all the films she could be in.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna, make any assumptions about her acting career. She might be brilliant. I don't know, but it just seemed a weird film to be doing.
Hasn't Bruce Pritchard said that it's his favourite? Is it JR or Bruce Pritchard have said it's their favourite film of all time? The original Walking Tall.
I don't think I've heard that bit.
No.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me massively.
No, JR's a big John Wayne fan.
Yeah, all the John Wayne films for JR.
Bagow. Well, we shall look forward to that in a couple of weeks. Until then, we'll be sat in front of the TV watching mediocre wrestling movies.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to.
Probably better than spending too much time watching mediocre wrestling.
Aye, that's it. Watching 5 hours of 6 hours of bunnies and whatnot.
Yep.
Give us some feedback if you. I'm sure you had different views from us, but give us your views. Give us a hit up on Twitter and Instagram. We're at Outlaws Pod on both. I've been getting quite angry with my Twitter fingers recently about this whole watching of Wrestlemania. So give us a shout, and we will be back in 2 weeks' time to talk about our top 5 movies starring wrestlers. Until then, stay safe, and we shall see you for episode 11. Cheers, Adam.
Cheers.